Welcome back to the NLC Division 2 fourth game of the day, but one of the most important because there's something happening outside of the game while inside of the game. These two teams came into an agreement that whenever an objective was secured, and we'll talk about those objectives, they would plant a tree, donate to plant a tree across the world. And we're talking about Verdant versus Lucent. So one kill equals one tree, one adult equals two trees, one Drake equals three trees, and one Baron equals five trees. Also, whoever wins the game gets 10 trees to plant. It is not easy. I'm not native in saying three trees and five trees. It's complicated, but it's a good game nonetheless.
But you know what? Also, you've smashed it. Everybody knows exactly what's going on. So by all means, feel free to also go and check out the Verdant and Lucent Twitters to get the full rundown on quite what those statistics are and how, of course, those things are going to be impacted. And obviously, with that in mind, we're expecting to see a 40-minute banger with 5v5 team fights every 2-3 minutes or so. Should we say?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm a
get as many
play-by-play,
kills as
so yeah,
possible.
curse me.
Baron starts at 20, spawns at 20, so we'll have 3 of those and as many elders as possible as well. Or 7 drakes into an elder, sounds good.
If this is not a 60 plus kills game, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. I would love to see 60 plus kills. Obviously, that's not going to happen because this game is also important. Can we take a look into the standings? That would be wonderful to get the mood going for the Verdant versus Lucent game. As you can see, Verdant are on 8th place. This is one of the teams that I was looking for the most when the Division 2 started. I know they're still a really good team. I just think they're struggling a little bit inside of the game in terms of shot calling, what is happening. And they're going to fight off versus Lucent. And where is Lucent? Right above. They're fighting for the third spot alongside everyone else. So it's a massive game for Verdant if they take this win to get themselves closer to Raid Gaming and also get a real shot at the middle of the pack. Remember yourselves that sixth place is more than enough to take into the playoffs. So this is a really important victory for Verdant. On the other side, though, if Lucent takes this one, they're going to join Domino Esports,
hmm
and I think no Lightside won as
Lightside,
well.
no, Lightside got
No,
defeated by Munster,
it
and then
was
we still
Raid Game
have
with are now tied up for sixth spot
yeah.
as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's really important for Verdant and also for Lucent Esports. And I think we have the champion select going on right now. So let's see what happens on this game with a lot of threes.
Yeah, so a lot of
Pick Ivan.
that would be cool. This would be the most fitting Ivan plus Maokai.
Yes.
Thank you to Reed on production as well for the Maokai throwout as well. Ivan Maokai bot lane, Ivan Maokai top jungle duo. Either or, we will accept, and we'll give you bonus trees as well. So, coming into this match, of course, we talked about the expectations, the standings. It's a very important game as well, despite it not being our top-est tier teams. We've got still a team in that battle for third, and a team looking to turn around their season at about the breakpoint when they need to start. Now, of course, looking at the bans, Jinx notably absent from our ban table for the time being, and we have to see whether or not Verdant want to take that one off the board, or if they fancy themselves the trade of Aphelios and Jinx, Seraphine the one taken away. I know that Lucent have played a lot of Seraphine as a carry, but without doubt going to be that Jinx first pick. Has been banned in all 3 of our games so far today, Ashram, so getting rid of it, or getting picked here this time makes absolute sense.
And if you only get to see it once per day, I would be fine for that. When you get all those games, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. Although if they pick this Thresh alongside with the Aphelios, that is a great one. I thought about like ditching the Aphelios for now because you already have an AD carry for Lucent, so you can pick the jungler now, get priority. Probably bringing the Ekrim, which is a fine pick nowadays, and
Mhm.
then on R3 pick up the Aphelios. But I think they want to secure this one right now. On the other side, you can pick the support. You have time to think about what you're going to pick next because you want to go to give those solo lanes some sort of advantage.
Yeah, I think you are quite right in the Hecarim priority here. Should be there for Verdant, whether they want it for Cyball or not. But now Lucent have that chance. In this bot lane pairing, I really like to talk about this because we get this bot lane duo matchup quite a lot. The Thresh obviously acts as a counter to the Nautilus. You're supposed to stand in front of the Nautilus hook And then if you flay at the right time, it means that Nautilus can't get the auto attack onto you, and it means that you're able to disengage that fairly easily. But instead, it's worth noting, that's a Trundle pickup. And as you go for Nautilus, he actually counters the Aphelios here, because regardless of your movement speed, regardless of whatever you like, if you press R on Aphelios, he gets CC'd. And that's something that you can't have the same impact on in the Thresh into Jinx interaction.
Last pick on the first rotation for Verdant. It's probably going to be the jungler this time. We'll finally see how the map is going to appear. I would love to, but no. Victor for the
Mm.
control mage in the mid lane, which means now Lucent can take a shot at the champion pool of Siebel. It would be really good to take him out. On the other side, he'll probably take into the mid lane. So we'll see different sort of focus in terms of bans. There we go, exactly.
Syndra likely, potentially a LeBlanc as well, taken off the board. Vex also still open and available. So there are a few picks. Corki as well, if we want to really be boring and take away both sides of this 12.2 mid matchup. But it's going to be Lucent, instead of pinching that jungle pool, opting into a little bit of a top side as well, because they know that they're going to have to blind pick their top laner here. So it looks like getting rid of something that they don't want to be playing up against, potentially just setting up for that Gnar blind, is something that they're going to be opting into. But we'll have to wait and see where their final bans go, because they could still pinch on jungle here. I think that something like the Hecarim to make this Jinx's life a little bit more difficult really would benefit them. And if they can get that banned away, obviously, much better.
You're forced to dig deep into champion pool if you take away the Hecarim, but also you can protect Castellan on the top side, since Valkyrie will have the last pick of the day. There we go. It's going to be Tryndamere being removed, so you give away the jungler, but Verdant are still going to save the top lane pick for last, unless we have something really spicy in the
Mm.
jungle and you don't want to see it countered.
Yeah, still have Viego, which is also a potential
Yeah.
takeaway here. Jarvan has been banned. Viego, the Xin Zhao as well banned away. So there are only a few sort of S tier picks, unless they do want to go for that Ivan, as we were sort of memely alluding to. And it looks like they've got something spicy planned. Honestly, you have to imagine that this is something that they need to see all 5 picks for before they feel comfortable taking the jungler, right? And that does sort of suggest that it's going to be something a little bit off the wall, which sort of leads Lucent down the path of thinking, what could they possibly think? And whether they've got this inside info and that we don't, they may be looking to pick something that makes that 5th pick that they've got in their heads that we don't know about a little bit harder to take.
Okay. Third time of the day where we get access to the Corki. We saw in the previous game what you can do with a single rocket when you get into late game. It was more than half HP in a single blow, but still it wasn't enough to secure the game. So it kind of makes sense to pick him. He's a little bit weaker in terms of objective control because of the package delay, but it's still a really good one. This would be kind of interesting to the top side. It deals tremendous amount of damage. It's one of those champions that uses the Hull Breaker in an absurd way. So Urgot is going to be picked for Castellan, which means they have to pick something interesting to the top side. Why?
It's worth noting as well that
Victor, why do you tease
Gragas can
me?
be flexed here. Yeah,
Ah!
the Gragas here flexed into the jungle, then we have to assume, unless we've got Gnar jungle, which just does not seem likely whatsoever.
No, it is
So
Gragas.
it's,
Yeah.
it's a Gragas jungle. Yeah, it makes well, it could be. Hopefully, it's Gragas jungle. It makes a lot of sense that it would be, and that's how the comp would like to play itself on out. A little bit different to see
Mm.
Gragas into the jungle from since seasons ago. He's not really been the highest priority. His clear is still a little bit slower than the likes of a Trundle, who will be able to really power through and get to that level 3 marker fairly early on. And I think that this mid lane is a point of real contention as well. We've got Victor on one side, who gets really hard done by that pillar. And obviously the Aphelios and Jinx are both going to be suffering on either end. Obviously one side doesn't have to deal with the pillar, but worth remembering that the Aphelios is going to have that lantern to safety as well.
But if you can time it perfectly enough, you can
Mm.
stop that travel. That would be the perfect counterplay. Just as you told us at the beginning, when you have the ultimate from Nautilus, it's a good way where the fellas will always get knocked up, and you have a lot of follow up as well. So that would be perfect. But then you look into the top side. How is this matchup going to be? Nar versus the Urgot. Urgot is massive if he's capable of stopping the hop. As soon as you take the hop away from the Nar, there goes the safety net, and you can just demolish that champion. Even if you're in Mega Gnar, I still believe that the Urgot will have some sort of interesting ways to deal with the Gnar. So I'm really curious about this top side. I know they probably stopped the champion select due to the fact that they didn't pick Pantheon and have to go back to fix the pasts
Hmm.
because Pantheon, it's a terrible champion, but it's still really fun to play with. So that's just my opinion.
So to give an update then on what was happening,
Oh,
Valkyrie, the
okay.
Verdant top laner, couldn't change his runes. So obviously they want to make sure that everybody is able to play with their optimum setup, and
Yeah.
they're going to be just redoing the draft quickly, make sure that that's something that can happen and can come through. But I agree, honestly, Arsham. The fact that they've not taken Pantheon here, kind of illegal, especially in a game that is a little bit is obviously got standings stakes on it, but it's also
Yes.
got the tree stakes as well.
The tree stakes. Adore. I love that. I love that. I just went Portuguese for a second there. I love that. I think the only time I'll be able to see Pantheon is going to be Team Singularity on Division One. I trust them. I
Hmm.
think something is going to happen. If someone is going to pick Pantheon, it's going to be Singularity. Aside from that, I don't think Pantheon is on a good
Now, how
spot
much are you
right
paying
now.
Team Singularity? That's the question.
A coffee.
A coffee. Oh, okay, okay.
Hey,
That's
it's
okay.
something. It
It
is
is. It
something.
is.
So if you want, I can pay you a coffee if you play Pantheon.
That's all it takes to get into Ashram's good books. It's pick Pantheon and you get coffee. There you go. It's
Yeah,
a nice little
Timo
trade.
or Pantheon, I'm more than well with that. That idea seems perfect. So, to tell you guys, this is going to be the same champion select, the same picks as well, but just allowing Valkyrie to take in the runes that he wants. Obviously, probably he's going to take the fleet footwork. I don't know if he's going for the grasp of the Undying. I don't know if you want the bomb plating or the second win on this matchup. I know how to play versus the Urgot with weird picks with the Shen and all that, but Gnar versus Urgot, you have to adapt perfectly because if you lose the hop, you are you are dead meat.
I think that in Mini Gnar, for example, there's two different interactions, obviously, because Gnar is just a different champion when he turns Mega, right? It turns into literally a full tank that can engage a team fight versus a half of an AD carry, effectively. So if you get sort of booped back, taken by the Urgot E behind, and then you still have hop available, you can actually use that hop to probably proc hyper and bounce off the Urgot back to safety. So typically, as the Urgot for Castrulan here, he's going to be looking for a window where he can burn Valkyrie's hop and then try and look for that dash forward, or he's going to find it fairly difficult. But you are quite right that regardless of form, the Gnar should be in a little bit of a rough spot if Castrulan can get on top of you. Because Urgot, as a champion, so often you'll see top laners that love to go from flank angle and try and get in and one-shot the backline. Castrulan on this Urgot is not going to be that. He's incredibly good at taking down front lines, and he should be able to deal with Mega Gnar or Mini Gnar alike. So something that you can look to there is Castrulan having a okay time on the top side. Obviously, was able to get counterpicked was the answer from Castrulan to say, okay, we thought we were going to be into Gragas. I'll take the Urgot. But then they, flipped a little bit of a script, flipped a switch, and said, well, we've used Red Side to flex pick for once, and we take the Gnar instead.
But is it good enough? That this is exactly my question. I know Nari is one of the safest picks to the top side, and I know he's not going to
Mhm.
push himself into a bad position. But then we look into the Presti attack, which is such a good run in terms of offensive capabilities and to split pushing and the 1v1. And then on the other side, you're forced to take the fleet footwork or even the grasp of the Undying to be more useful, especially in team fights. It's always good to also get that additional sustain out of nowhere because even though you're a tank, you need some sort of sustain in the middle of the
Yeah.
fray if everybody's hitting on you. You have a lot of HP, but resistance wise, you have a lot of HP. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's one of those. Well, we can build all the HP that we like, but if everybody's wailing away on us and we don't have those resistances, the nature is that we're going to probably get melted, despite all that. But nevertheless, we will have to wait
Mhm.
and see how this now ends up functioning. We do still have the rest of the map as well to be drawing a few focuses on. We've got a very vanilla, very standard bot lane with two hyper carries that come the later stages of the game are going to be looking to find big amounts of action, big amounts of damage as well. And I think that looking at this perspective, I think that from both sides, it should be a focus on putting one ADC further ahead than the other. I always love the idea of just getting a Jinx incredibly fed, and then you can't really answer that because you talked about it earlier on, right? We had this conversation about Aphelios versus Jinx, and you highlighted it beautifully that Aphelios has more tools, has more ways to play out the game, but in a raw front to back team fight, you just don't beat Jinx. She out DPSs every ADC, and you don't manage to win when you have lethal tempo fully stacked 750 plus range on this Jinx. There are a lot of options for both teams, and we have to see who's going to take the win.
And I still remember when I was casting in Portugal and even before the Jinx got completely crazy with the buffs and the way she's working now. I always said it is really weird to buff or nerf Jinx because if you tweak it just a little bit, she's going to become so overpowered.
Hmm.
It is really hard for the balancing team to actually work with the Jinx. And then I kept saying, Aphelios is the Jinx 2.0, where he just excels at everything. And at the time, I think it was true, but now with a little tweak, it's just the same. They're almost the same AD carry, but that's the point. He has more tools if you're capable of using it, but on the 5v5 with no addition of those tools, Jinx is Jinx. And as long as she's there to deal the damage, as long as she gets a reset, that's more than enough. Okay, Doran's shield for the Urgot, who's the one poking, while Valkyrie brings in the Omnivamp with the Doran's blade, the one who's going to get poked. He brought in the fleet footwork, so that's additional sustain. That is good for him. But I see two pressy attacks on the side of Lucent, and this means a lot of damage in team fights.
It does. I mean, we've got obviously this ability to shred a front line is now very present for Lucent, despite the fact that the we'll say front line for Verdant is fairly. I'm gonna go with weak in general as opposed to as a front line itself. Gragas and the Gnar, they do offer a lot of distraction, but versus something like the Ornn and Hecarim, it's not quite the same level, and that's the level that I'm comparing them up against. They will obviously be able to do a good work themselves, just not quite the best. They obviously leverage a different way because Gragas and the Gnar are likely to have a fair amount of damage in their back pocket as well that they can use to offset the amount of tankiness that they don't necessarily have. Now, as we look at our junglers as well, I think as we talked about, very important to say that they have both path bot lane, but the hook goes in. Flame Jumper's not quite activated in time, and Previous, along with Fuyu, not quite there with the lineup of CC.
So that's an early potion that Winter is forced to take to Shug to get himself back on track. And that's one less that you need when all those hooks are coming in. Nicely warded by Previous. As soon as he sees that he has some sort of advantage, the lane is pushed. He's going to take a peek at where Gragas is. Now, this is useful information for Fantasy. And not only that, but useful information for Castrullan, who is allowing himself to be pushed on the top side so he can hug a little bit the turret and still until that level 3 of Valkyrie with the Mega Gnar appears, and then is capable of turning it around, especially if Fantasy goes to the top side. Fantasy, though, wants to bite the enemy, wants to go for Sybil, who's taking those wolves. He's going to spot them. The smite is available if he wants to seal anything, but I think he wants to go for the mid lane.
Pillar, just to put a little bit extra down, but you can see Syntax's HP is actually very low, so there's not too much follow-up to be had, and Ericsson actually able to hold the wave just outside the turret. This doesn't look like a particularly sustainable freeze, but he's able to hold it out for one wave. I think that it's probably going to crash under fairly soon, but nevertheless, Lucent looking for these early plays, looking to use the Trundle to some sort of advantage as well. But sat on a ward right now, he's not going to be getting anything from this bot lane, and now you've got this little game of chicken where Verdant have to pretend that they don't know he's here, but while they really do know that he's there.
Remind yourselves that this is a game where every single kill counts. Dragon, Herald, everything. We're talking about donations for the trees. As soon as the team gets a kill, that's a tree that is going to be planted by those teams. This is some sort of charity game, while it still counts as an official game. It's just something on the side to help the world get a little bit better, and I'm so happy they're doing this. This is really beautiful from them. But so far, no deaths at all, as Fantasy is looking to change that.
But again, now in fairness, this is making it fairly obvious that there may be somebody down on this bot side. We just walk through the minion wave, well read by the Verdant bot lane. And now Cybele is already making his way down here, but he's giving up topside camps to do this. And this is happening so that they can make sure they don't get killed on this crashed wave. Obviously, Verdant don't know that there's no jungler nearby, and that the time here for Cybele is effectively to clear a ward. Now, they have a really difficult choice to make because they could have gone for Dragon here, recognizing they're going to have a bit of an overload of players down on this bot side, but instead they're going to value the good base timing. They've sent a massive wave under the turret. Draconium going to go back to base, picks up tier 2 boots immediately, which makes it very difficult for him to get hit by these Nautilus hooks, and whilst it's not your generic safety option, it's the best that you can get while still being incredibly efficient with your items.
It's Verdant coming in with the wards as well, trying to get some sort of safety net to understand where Fantasy is. Pre-level 6, obviously you want to stop him from doing anything. Although Civil now, with those boots, the upgrade as well, he has the Predator available. So this means that he's looking for something. He has cooldown to help him to get that back faster. Or even the body slam alongside with the flash to set up some sort of a play. As Wender is fancying some sort of invade in the jungle. Going to get division out of Fantasy. Fantasy spawning out Winter as well. But Winter is not alone. Previous knows of this and wants to go in. Dev Synthesis goes wide. The dredge line goes wide as well. So at this point, nobody hooks anyone as Syntax is forced to just Valkyrie away. So not a lot of action. Not a lot of success in terms of engagement as well. As the first dragon is an Infernal one. So getting securing this buff is probably a little important.
Yeah, trying to get those bonus damages in, certainly going to be very powerful come the later stages of the game. Early Infernals don't tend to do too much for you, but obviously setting up that stacking win condition is always something that players, teams are going to be looking to be very happy about if they can succeed in. And both supports there on that bot side, brothers in arms, taking those skill shots and throwing them just a little bit wide, saying anything you can do, I can do just as badly. But either way, they've got plenty of time to turn it around, plenty of time to find the hooks, find the nail in the coffin that can very easily turn the tides of a game. The X factor that is provided by both of these hook supports is always absolutely devastating. You know, you come to late stages of the game, if you just randomly hook one ADC, that could very well change the tide of the fight.
Death Sentence again, going a little bit wide. At this point, Winter is struggling himself. Find some sort of connection with Previous or even Fuyu. At this point, getting the kill for anybody on this team of Verdant would be quite important. On the other side, I would say the same because we have so many carries, not only in terms of players, but in terms of champions for both teams. So getting kills in the early game would be quite useful. Top sign. You get the steel caps. It's a rush for Verdant's boots for almost everybody. Everybody's looking for those boots. You get the swiftness, you get the lucidity, you get the steel caps as well. On the other side, it's mostly about Lucent going for the scaling items. There's a whole breaker in the making for the Castrulan. In the jungle, it is the Sheen alongside with the Kindle Gem. The mid, it's about that tier. So everybody's looking for the stack game, while Verdant are looking for more effectiveness. But I don't think they're working or playing accordingly to what they're trying to build.
Now, we could well see Cyball look to change that here with the presence down on this bot side. Predator onto a Jinx, obviously with Flash available, could be fairly difficult to execute on. But both of these junglers yet to have a real impact, and in a game where kills do mean good for the world, we've got a very slow pace early game. 3v3 potentially down on this bot side, but Syntax has got first roam from mid.
Flame Shopless connect as well. Body slam. This could be the first blood. He's going to flash away, allowing Fantasy to run amok as the explosive casting. But a rocket from downtown takes him down for the first blood to Syntax.
That roam, it's the X factor, it's the difference maker that gives the kill over. Now Draconium could well be in trouble as well. There we go.
Super mega death. There we go. It's for Fuyo as they're not done yet. Winter is getting lower. Syntax runs out of ammo, so he's forced to go back. But it's not only 2 kills for both carries as well, but also 2 plates for Fuyu. And
incredible. Incredible. And 2 trees. Don't forget. Yeah. Plus a Drake. That's more trees.
5 trees at this point.
They're stacking. Very nicely done for Lucent. On the bot side of the Rift, Syntax, yes, he roams and misses, but such a good buff for Castrulan. That's nasty.
Disdain is an ability. That's the name of the ability, by the way. Disdain is an ability that is disdainable as well. A champion.
The Tristana buffer, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
That rocket jump is irritating, is the word I'm going to use. Now, in the mid lane, Ericsson was able to find himself a small advantage here. He got a lot of alone time in the laning phase, and it means that he's able to get those Victor books nice and early. He's about 1 or 2, he's probably not very far away from the upgrade. And we do get to see now a little bit of a replay, rather, from how all of this all segued out. Now, Previous starts it off, and it looks like he may well go down instead. It's such a good timing from Winter to also hook at that same instance. Unfortunately, Draconium's ulti goes wide, and Syntax able to use the Valkyrie to find the final nail in the coffin and take down the Gragas. Means that there's a swift little one for
Ah,
nothing there, but then that final rocket here, that one from Syntax is enough. Fuyu was sat waiting for the mana as well the entire time he wanted to fire that ulti off, but didn't quite have
whoa.
the mana to do so. I'm not sure quite what's happened to this bot tier 1 turret, but apparently Fuyu is absolutely well ahead of the curve right here and has taken 4 plates.
He's cosplaying as Ziggs.
Yeah.
He's going to take this turret way too soon. 11 minutes in. It was only a team fight. The Herald is on the other side. It was Sybil making the Heralds. He has it on his pocket, but it's going to be first turret. 5 platings for Fuyu. Alongside with a kill. Ericsson in the mid lane are forced to flash away. As Syntax is way too big of a threat. And there we go. It's the X-Drinker we talked about.
Ooh, he
Ericsson!
lived!
He is dead, but no one told him.
He's dead on my screen, that's for sure. What happened? Comes away with just a slither of HP after a 1v1 in the mid lane that he has no business really trying to take. Obviously, with Hex Drinker, it's going to be much more difficult for Syntax to die than it is for Ericsson. And just in general, do you remember back in the day when you used to see AD versus AP mid laners and you'd go Seeker's Arm Guard into Hex Drinker or versus Hex Drinker? Hex Drinker is just a way better item in that instance because you get the 250 or so HP shield as you get lower. And obviously, I mean, Ericsson hasn't gone for the Zhonya's this time, so the comparison isn't there. But the power of Hex Drinker remains to be. And in this 1v1, Ericsson really doesn't stand a chance for the next couple of team fights, really, for the next few minutes at the very minimum, to really stand a chance up against this Victor. But what I want to see now is what happens to this Jinx, because Fuyu, he's already taken the bot tier 1. It looks like they've tried to translate their lead by moving Cybele, or rather by moving Valkyrie down to, or up to match even. But Fuyu and Previous, they've just gone, well, there's no more plates for us to get in the bot lane. What we'll do is we'll punish your top side now as well. And whilst Castrulan can't really farm down in the bot lane, he's accepted weak side duty this game, gone for the hull breaker, whilst his top side is going to be or rather, whilst his bot side is just going to be picking up the pieces of this turret.
It is a good reply from Verdant, though. Getting that turret alongside with the Heralds, this is going to allow Draconian to take 5 plates as well. Separating them, like sharing the gold bounty of those plates with someone else. But meanwhile, Fuyu is looking for the... Ooh, the nice flash. He's looking for the plates, any speed run percentage. As he's going for the 10.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the point, right? They're already 5 plates behind. Now, Verdant, they extend this by going for the tier 2 turret as well, which is actually worth a lot of gold. 325 on both sides of that. They may look to pick Valkyrie, though, here.
Ooh! Nice flash from Valkyrie. Nicely done. I don't know if they would have the damage, but at least they threaten him for something.
And they burn the flash
for
it as well.
I don't know if it's worth to give those plays for Fuyu when you had 2 people sitting idle just to help him protect the Jinx if she got herself in trouble. I don't know. That's a lot of gold for Draconian.
This is the point where you start talking about more than just the gold implications, because in terms of just gold, it's worthwhile for Lucent to take that and put 5 plates onto Fuyu again. They're really doubling down on this Jinx, who's already nearly 2 items, 14 minutes into the game, which is absolutely insane how far ahead he is. But also the map implications that come from this, because if there's an unanswered wave by Verdant, or for Verdant rather, down on that bot side, it means more than just a little bit of turret damage and could mean your inhibitor turret starts falling because it's a much longer lane for your wave to start stacking.
Nice hook. It seems that Winter gone cold with another kill. Valkyrie on the background trying to do something, trying to transform himself into Mega Nard, but the rage is just not there, even though one of his teammates just fell on the ground. Well, they want to push the T1, but this is more of a lane priority to go straight up for the Dragon. Previous flashes away, the hop goes wide. Valkyrie will
Look at
transform
Fuyu.
himself, but as he's running, nice transformation, the Mega Knight is used, but Valkyrie is going down. The flash from Fuyu is going to stop him from being stunned by Ericsson, and rocket by rocket will allow Syntax to go into a killing spree.
He's dead.
And the rocket goes for the critical strike with the Gale Force. Double kill for Fuyu. Lucent just going wild.
This game for Fuyu is all around Jinx.
Perfect death sentence. Draconian getting the revenge from the bot side.
Winter picks it up.
But...
That's a huge hook, and that goes to show you, like I talked about earlier, the X factor of these hook supports. If Winter can find that, he can very well nail Fuyu and put him in the dirt. Draconian wastes no time by spending the damage and putting himself in a position to finish off that kill. But for Lucent, their entire composition has sort of changed to be being played around this Jinx. That one fight on the bot side, which I don't know about you, but I thought was going to be a couple kills, but nothing too much more, has now all of a sudden just segued. Oh, Winter. Oh my. Has those couple kills turned into 2 kills plus 2 turrets plus an extra couple kills from that mid lane fight. All of a sudden, that gold is in a team fighting menace in the late game. A full 1,000 gold up over Draconium, and honestly, I'm surprised it's not more. It really does go to show you just quite how well Draconium has been playing, and I think that he, as a support, has been, or as an AD carry, has been doing very well, whilst the rest of Verdant, obviously with those 8 defeats, may have been struggling a little bit. Draconium for me has always looked like a bit of a bright spot.
It is. I keep saying this. This is a really good team. What is happening for them not to get as many wins as I thought? I don't know. It's probably about shot calling. Winter. Way too low. Fear Beyond Death was available. He just didn't want to pull the trigger because someone was in top of him. Sybil getting way too low. He's going for the status. Meanwhile, the Mega Knight is perfect, but this is allowing Fuyu to be on the backline. Using the Gale Force as a tech. What is that? That's a beautiful Moonlight Vigil. Gets the snipe, but not enough damage. Syntax just limping away. Fuyu flying way too close to the sun and getting himself burned.
Yeah, I mean, call him Icarus for that one, because that was a little too far forward, and he did get 2 kills, but ultimately giving kills or dying on this Jinx can prove to be fairly costly. It stops them from getting that tier 2, stops them from leveraging these kills into more objectives, because Jinx is your lead objective taker. She's the one who's going to be really putting down the hammer in that regard. But Draconium's still alive, along with Ericsson. These two consistently putting themselves in good position to find these team fights is a pretty good look for them overall. No mid-tier 1 turrets to be traded, and Lucent, despite the fact that Fuyu goes down, still in a very good spot. The fact that he dies doesn't take away his gold, if anything. It just stops him from getting more, which is, again, best case scenario is that you kill the Jinx, but it doesn't stop her from being incredibly scary at every given fight. When that Infinity Edge gets completed, if it's in time for this next Drake, I don't think it will be, but if it were, that would be just absolutely mortifying, because an Ocean Soul as well, I think that for this composition specifically, sometimes Ocean Soul can get fairly overrated, but there's not a lot of burst coming through from the Lucent side, so getting the denial of the Ocean Soul certainly looks pretty good.
We've just hit the 23 mark, by the way. We have 23s being built up just because of this game, alongside with the kills, Adult, Dragons. Turrets are not including, apparently. They didn't got some sort of marking for the turrets, but at least it's 20 turrets that they have to plant after this game due to the charity of this game. It's really important for Verdant to take this one home. So far, Fuyu is doing a really good job, aside from those engagements with the Gale Force, where he's like, I'm a take Jinx, and he goes,
yeah.
Aside from that, he's playing perfectly.
It could be a bit scary, and I wonder if this is just Fed Jinx syndrome. And if that's the case, it's fine. But if it's a I can make this play and I'll be fine type syndrome, then I don't know that this is the best look for Fuyu. Obviously, there's a little bit of, the leeway that we can give him. There's a lot of, okay, well, he's clearly this fed for a reason, so he can maybe get away with this. But I'd like to see him be a little bit more reserved. 2 deaths at this point when you're so fed is enough for me, unless, of course, you're getting dove upon and dying for a greater good. But the 2 deaths that he's had thus far have just been for slightly stepping too far forward. So maybe dial it down a little bit, become a little bit more safe, a little bit more reserved. He still has a bounty on his head, so doesn't want to be giving that over. And we talk about Fuyu so much because that's where this composition for Lucent revolves around. There's no other way of putting it, that he is the lifeblood of this composition right now. Syntax is beginning to ramp up as well. He's got that Mirror Mana completed, and at 304 has had a fairly active game despite it not looking like he's the leading sort of factor. But with the Drake spawning in now 13 seconds, you can see Lucent, they've positioned themselves wonderfully to get river access. There's a TP from Castrulan behind them as well, just to make sure that there's nothing going on. And unless Verdant are going to try and take this Baron, which they're still doing in the face of package, they're going to try it 4v5 because it is fantasy on the dragon.
The vision is there, so they know what is happening. Package is still available. They're going for the scuttle. That's a lot of damage. Previous is going to get caught. Ooh, double missile. It's going to be Fuyu in Syntax burst as C-Boy is underneath fire. C-Boy wants to run away. The blast cone is going to give him safety, but meanwhile, they'll lose themselves the third dragon of the game. Fuyu is pushing the T2 in the mid lane as well. Everything is going accordingly to Lucent's plan.
Yep, they just call the bluff. They allow Verdant to start wailing away on the Baron, and they say, what are you going to do? There's no way you finish this in the face of Corki with package, all of the poke that comes through from that. And then once they've chased them off, Fuyu goes into the mid lane, starts wailing away on the turret. Fantasy's taking the Drake the entire time. They get the inhibitor turret. No inhibitor falls, but really good play by Lucent here on the map. Now the question is, can they get away? Because it looked like Predator being popped meant that they were going to try and find a re-engage. But Verdant unable to find it, unsuccessful in that regard. And once again, Lucent, they come away on top. A really good macro step that doesn't net them the most gold overall. Inhibitor turret's the worst for that, but they do get the dragon. They do put themselves onto Soul Point. And now come 5 minutes time, Verdant, they won't be able to do that play again.
This could be a dive. The Super Mega Death Rocket goes away, probably into Twisted Tree line as it roams across the Summoner's Rift. At this point, 8-2. The kills are in favor of Lucent, and so is the vision. They want to remove all the vision from Verdant at this point. We have a few Naughty Wars trying to get some sort of spotting. Meanwhile, it's going to be Castrulan to try and split push to the top side with his Tiamat. He has access to a lot of wave clear with his Purge, so it's going to be hard for Gnar to manage and actually do something to stop that push.
Yeah, there are a few champions that you can get away with not going mythic on. The first one that springs to mind is Ezreal, but Urgot as well is a champion that you can go 2, maybe even 3 items without having picked up that mythic. Hullbreaker plus Titanic Hydra is just the duo, really, of Urgot items, so there's no wonder that you see him forego the mythic item, whichever one it may be, to get these 2 items online, particularly on 12-4, the final chance for you to really love the Hullbreaker and enjoy its power. Up against Valkyrie, who's also rushed the Hullbreaker, but he's going for the Divine Sunder a second, sticking to the status quo here of Gnar build.
I think I'll probably go for the Stride Breaker, Castrulan, as soon as he's capable of getting all that slow on Victor, who's kind of immobile. Draconian, it's kind of immobile. So that is a good way. You go in with the Disdain, get the Stride Breaker, and probably lock in the enemy. If you don't want to, you can go for more sustain. You can go for the split push as well. That could be a lot of answers coming in from Castrulan, who's just shining on this game so far. 0-0-5. No kills, but a lot of assists and a lot of pressure in this game as well. Almost one of the top scorers in terms of farm, but if you look, it's about that Syntax and Fuyu, who are just farming away 220 plus minions. And on the other side, it's only the Cronian who's actually trying to tie that up, even as it is in terms of farm. Getting access to 2 items, but it's not offensive items. You have the shield bow, you have the BT. It deals damage, it gives you crit, but it's not that Infinity Edge or the Phantom Dancer, so it's mostly about, I want to protect myself. Meanwhile, Fuyu is just going straight up for attack, already finishing the Infinity Edge with the Phantom.
Yeah, this is the 3-item Exodia for Jinx right now. It's not Kraken Slayer, so there's a little bit of damage lacking there, but you then also have that execution potential of the Gale Force if you look to find somebody who's a little bit out of position. So a little bit more playmaking potential in that regard. But obviously Draconian working his way towards that Infinity Edge. It won't be that far around the corner, but obviously with it not being up, it's fairly different. It's a really big difference between the 2 ADCs right now. Cybele looking for a pick onto Syntax in the mid lane. He's got Flash, he's got Valkyrie, he feels absolutely fine. And with Drake spawning in a little over a minute, Verdant need to start focusing around this bot side vision, and you can see them doing that. The issue that they have now is that Lucent can just say, you can take one single Ocean Dragon, we will take the Baron instead. And that trade is something that Verdant are going to be incredibly cognizant of, or have to be at least, if they don't want to give up the Baron for free.
Can you give an Ocean Soul to a Jinx? To an Urgot who's just split pushing into the late game? Or even a Corki? He has the rockets, he has the ability to just hit them and time them to get all the sustain back. You'll never lose any sort of mana while he's poking away. That's more than enough. Syntax looking for the big one. Oosh. If that hits Winter, I don't know.
He's out of the fight, that's for sure. But this initial poke from Syntax is incredibly important. He's now out of rockets though, so does need to be careful of that. With the Drake spawning in 10 seconds, it's Verdant who actually have got the first move into the mid lane, and they'll be able to have a good time.
Death Sentence is really
Oh,
good,
no,
but they're going to get punished by that as Fuyu is just running amok, and there's the disdain to lock in the AD carry. This means that Jigs is just excited. We are looking for the next one. This could be the hype. He flashes away from the zap, but nothing is going to stop them from taking whatever they want. Either the Ocean Soul, either the Baron, or even the Inhibitor.
The Inhibitor first, and then they can fall back to either one of the two objectives. They may even look for an end here, but with 20 seconds on those death timers, I think it's a little overzealous. Just one Nexus turret, maybe even two, could be the move. They've got Jinx, they've got the Get Excited. There's a chance they can end.
Winter is alone. Can he be the guardian of these turrets? Once goes down, you have the siege minion, but you have to let it go. You got a lot of gold. You got a lot of objectives. Better play safe.
Yeah, and now it's Dragon. They spend the timing that they could have used to do Baron, instead going for a Nexus turret, which has its merits, and we will get to see that a little later on. But now they're not really set up in time for this. Drake double TP comes through for Valkyrie as well as Ericsson, so Verdant, they're here and they're ready. But with this double flank, they've gone for different angles of approach.
Gnar wants to respawn, but he's not even allowed! He's so squishy as a mini Gnar, and Fuyu is so far ahead, 8-2-5. Infinity Edge, he has 60%. There's a package on the backside, and Winter and Draconian are annihilated for a double kill of Lucent. This is a team fight they were looking for, and the Ocean Soul belongs to Lucent.
Lucent just destroy Verdant in the Drake pit. The package, the TP Syntax finally has his hero arc. Fuyu spotlight gets stolen, and now this should well be the game. They have no Baron, so Ericsson has a big task here to try and wave clear. Him and Cyball, they could do it.
The field is on the floor. Previous goes low as well. The Chaos Storm, I think it's off cooldown, but doesn't matter. Fuyu doesn't have any sort of cooldown. Fear beyond death as the ace comes in clean for Lucent for another victory.
Put themselves to 7-5, and now they keep themselves rivaling for that third place position, as well as closing that gap onto Natives, who took that defeat here in second. So there's a lot of standings that are going to get shaken up, and come next week could very well be in a really shaky position. But Verdant, once again, unfortunately unable to secure themselves a win. Really good team fighting from Lucent throughout sets themselves up, and obviously Fuyu getting those, what was apparently 2 kills into a complete snowball of 2 turrets, was enough to start the game off well and win the game out incredibly strongly. They didn't even need a Baron.
I don't even know how many trees were planted because of this game. I would like to see at the end, like, the number of trees, but it was a lot. We got 4 dragons as well. It was mostly about the control of the dragons. When you get Fuyu with those, I think it was 10 plates. I think he got all those 10 plates alongside with the first turret. That was way too much. Obviously, you take down the T2 from the bot side to try and even it out, but Draconian didn't have enough gold. And just as you told us before, if you have the Jinx versus the Aphelios, if Jinx is fed, it's more than enough. And I want to talk with the players, so we're going to make a quick break, and we'll be right back soon enough to understand what happened, what could have happened, and how many trees are going to be planted. I'll see you soon.